How would your life change if you dialed back your own need for attention and started to treat kindness and humility as your greatest strength? True strength and confidence aren't about power, dominance, or showing off. They're about how you treat people, especially in the most difficult moments. When you approach the world with humility, kindness, patience, and respect, start to refine, build on your inner strength and integrity, regardless of how others behave. If you're anything like me, and you have a lot of unsightly behavior to atone for, then I'm sure that there'll be one or two takeaways that will help us to better understand how treating other people well isn't just about them, it's about you. It's about who you are and what you stand for. And if it is that we haven't done the best with this, it might be the perfect opportunity to start to evolve it. If you don't know, my name is Chad Joshua, and I'm working towards writing a 100-song catalog. This is my artist channel that I use to promote those songs. In my free time, I like to have these discussions about the areas of our lives that we may need to improve in order to better our efforts as we strive towards the things that we are trying to accomplish. And I thought that I would speak to this today because I'm sure that there can be something gained from considering the nature with which we interact with other people and how making better habits of that can help us really embody who it is that we most want to be on our journey into the future and towards our goals. Oftentimes we have this tendency to be assertive and defensive in a lot of situations. And the assertiveness can maybe cross a sort of line in the way that we demonstrate it. If there's some insecurity behind it, it may come off in such a way that it's sort of like an overcompensation. In my younger years, I'll say I was just inundated with insecurity and lack of confidence. In that I was socially awkward and didn't feel comfortable in the norms. You know, in hindsight, I think it has to do with the nature of being an artist and being inside my head. But there is really no excuse for bad behavior, just own it as being an idiot. And there's something that we take from that assertiveness that masks the insecurity that we're allowing ourselves to interpret as some sort of a strength. It's immediately satisfying to respond with a bite. That satisfaction, it's shallow and it doesn't yield you any dividends. It doesn't lend you a practice of something that is sustainable or beneficial. The thing with behaving in a way that is underscored with humility and kindness is that it actually does require strength. It demands patience, self-control, and emotional maturity. But any true power, it lies in choosing to remain calm and kind when others are expecting you to lash out. And the more that you practice this, the stronger and more natural it becomes. You know the saying, catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And that's important to keep in mind. And for me, my life and in my pursuits, and especially now at this current iteration of life where I have the luxury of hindsight and a wake of destruction behind me, I'm clearly aware and I have seen the outcomes of trying to do it both of those ways. Now, neck deep in all of this effort to write songs and promote them, I have this circle of people who I rely on for support in various ways. And some people are positioned to be able to communicate with me very directly. And that's by design, because sometimes you need to hear the hard things, but it goes against that desire to protect ourselves. Because sometimes whenever you hear something back, somebody's giving you some information or feedback, you know, maybe there is a scale of just exactly how constructive it is and where that scale shifts into something being intended as an attack. Sometimes it's very difficult to be able to make that assessment, and especially in the heat of it. You know, it's almost instinctive in those times where something's being presented to you and you feel challenged by that. And again, like I said, there is a scale in terms of how you could measure the delivery, but that scale isn't relevant to how you respond at all. So if I'm working with somebody who is in a position to give me that kind of critical feedback that I need, sometimes that hits hard and there's a tendency to want to be defensive. And then there's those occasions where somebody who I have inside the circle is maybe in their own life having something of a bad day, and for whatever reason at that particular moment, that commentary that they're directing to you gets infused with the frustration of whatever it is that has them sideways. For me, that immediately knocks me back and I get angry. But really, what good is that anger going to do me? I'm not going to shout somebody into submission. You know, when I was younger, I just conducted myself in a way that made no sense. And as much as I'm predisposed to being something of a hothead, at this point in my life, I do a much better job of keeping that to myself because I am working on a project that is important to me and I have to relate with people. And so I have to be conscientious that a person may be having a bad day and I still will have to work with them. A person may not like me and I still might have to work with them. Taking garbage from people for too long, it's not the best plan, but maybe for the immediate now, you just have to work through the moment that you're in because you might not be at a time where you're shifting out that person. So it doesn't help you to escalate is the point. And there is something that is bought in terms of how that they interpret you from you having a capacity to diffuse things and to be calm and to be humble. Even if you have to walk away in that moment and go shout on the mountain so that way you can come back down and conduct yourself in a way that your family would be proud of you. And I do that now as best that I can because I've wasted my chance to do that before. And each time that I do my best to conduct myself in a way that's thoughtful of the other person being up or down, even if it made me up or down to navigate that time, I just bite my tongue and keep that to myself and try to do a better job at just even how I interpret things like that, because I'm still probably wrong with my initial response. I am striving to divine the operating manual for this human. That said, I have tested both of the paths, and the one in which that I behave in a more thoughtful way has not only provided an outcome that realigned the trajectory, but also helped me to ingratiate myself with those people who recognized how I diffused the moment, and it's almost become an enduring quality. And while it is that I am writing all these songs and I do need a team around me to help me to promote them and navigate my way through that, it isn't the why. At this point in my life, I want to be evolving into the best iteration of myself that I can be. I don't want to be disruptive and thoughtless, just as it relates to my life and the way that I want to conduct myself. So as a practice, and to not think of myself so important that I deserve to blow up on somebody, but instead I'm attempting to conduct myself with more humility, more kindness, patience, and respect. And it seems sometimes what you pay into the world, you get paid back. So you pay into the world destruction, you get destruction back. And when you attempt to be constructive, then you start to build stuff. Then things start to build and shape around you. Because even though you might not know the next person from Adam, we're still all in this together, in that no one knows exactly why, and we're all trying to figure the thing out. Having humility and kindness, it reflects confidence because it shows that you are secure enough not to be rattled by others. And respect and patience, they do diffuse conflicts because it's a choice that you're making to stay calm while somebody else is escalating. And if you are in a position where you need to be something of leadership, and I'm sure you can understand how moving with humility and kindness are the means by which you will be able to be influential in your position. Confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to be braggadocious or boastful. And you can think of it as an armor. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you unbreakable. So what is it that starts to happen when you begin to see difficult interactions as opportunities, not just to win an argument? And what would the world look like if people flexed this kind of humility and kindness instead of dominance? Not to mention, how would your relationships improve if you were more empathetic and less judgmental every time? Humility and kindness, they are transformative because they break the cycles of negativity that we're so often stuck in. And it models self-control and the strength to not only our own selves, but to others. But doing that and making a habit of it, it requires effort. And where would you start? The first thing you might do is allow yourself to have a pause before you react. That way you could move through whatever emotion that comes up immediately without being reactive and driven by dopamine. The next thing you could do is to keep focused on your why you're doing what you're doing, who you are, what your values are. And remember that all of that is, regardless of theirs, doesn't have anything to do with their behavior. As frustrating or subversive as it is, making a practice of this allows you to have grace under pressure, which will be a reflection of your internal discipline and character. And if you're like me and you didn't have much of any of that before, then you owe it to yourself and everybody in your circle, everybody who depends on you, to start to lean into that, build your capacity for it, move in a way where people can admire you, not be terrified of triggering your next blow up like a raging lunatic. Every challenge we face dealing with others is a chance for them to grow. And what could you achieve if you just kept that in mind and moved through the circumstance with grace and thoughtfulness? The next time you're faced with negativity and ignorance, pause and ask yourself, how do you want to be able to reflect on this moment and how you managed it? Because the real flex, it isn't about proving how strong you are. It's about showing how efficient you are at moving through any obstacle that life throws your way. So you go and get to doing it all better. I'm going to do the same. Keep your head up. I'm going to keep my head up. And if you haven't had a chance to hear my new song, you can listen to it here. We'll talk again soon.